So the 2022 NBA playoffs are finally starting, and they're starting tonight. Yeah, I'm going to see my Denver Nuggets get absolutely whooped by the Golden State Warriors. But that's besides the fact. The two teams that made the playoffs from the play-in on each conference was the Brooklyn Nets and the Atlanta Hawks. And then for the West, it was the Timberwolves and the Pelicans. Now, both of these teams will not do anything in the playoffs, but we got to make sure we include them for the standings and the playoff predictions just so they feel included. And without further ado, let's get straight into the predictions. In the first round, we have the number 1 seeded Phoenix Suns against the 8 seeded New Orleans Pelicans. And we all know how the series is going to go. The Suns are going to beat them in 4. If Zion comes back, maybe 5. But, I mean, it's not going to change much. CJ McCollum has been really good, and he's led this New Orleans team to new heights while Zion has been out. However, it's not going to do enough to beat the best team in the NBA. All right, now the 4 seed versus the 5 seed. The Dallas Mavericks against the Utah Jazz. To me, the Utah Jazz are winning this series. I heard that Luka might be out in the first game of the series, and that does move the needle a lot. But not only that, I just think the Jazz are the more talented team. That's not even a weird thing to think about. I mean, the Jazz are the more talented team. It's just their playoff production has not always reflected it. This year, I think it will happen. I mean, Rudy Gobert has no more perimeter defenders he can rely on. I mean, maybe Daniel House will give you a little bit of perimeter defense, but he doesn't have any. But the good thing is that the Mavericks are shallow when it comes to depth, so maybe the perimeter defense won't completely kill Rudy Gobert this series. At the 3-6 matchup, we have the Golden State Warriors against the Denver Nuggets. And like I said in the intro, the Nuggets are getting almost swept. To me, we're losing in 5 games. If not, we're losing in 6 games. We're just losing in general. I don't see us winning this series or even having a chance at it. You know, the one exception to that would be if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. came back, but they're not, and we all know that. I mean, they've been out for like 2 years now. It's crazy. Or Jamal Murray has. And then, the last series in the West, the Memphis Grizzlies against the number 7 seeded Timberwolves. Now, to me, this series can go 7 games if it needed to. I mean, this sounds kind of crazy. The Grizzlies, on paper, are the much better team. Obviously, the better record. They have the better depth. They have the better coaching. It goes down the line of what they have that is better than the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, with young teams, they are kind of reluctant to be performing amazing in the playoffs in their first year. This is their first year legitimately in the playoffs. Last year was a whole different story. Yes, they were in the playoffs last year, but I wouldn't say, there was much experience that was made from that. However, they might go 7 games. It reminds me of when the 2-seeded Nuggets faced the 7-seeded Spurs back in the day, where that series went 7 games. Not really because the Spurs were that good. It's just because the Nuggets were so young and inexperienced. Alright, now let's get into the first round on the Eastern Conference. The number 1 seeded Heat versus the number 8 seeded Atlanta Hawks. Since the Hawks don't have John Collins, I don't expect them to win this series. However, this series can be close, and that is because of one player, Trae Young. Trae Young in this series is the best player. He's been averaging like 30 and 10 this season, and he does kill defenses with his elite playmaking and his ability to shot create. However, I don't think that's going to hold over for long enough. I have the Miami Heat winning in 6 games. The next series, the number 4 Sixers against the number 5 Raptors. I'm going to take the very unpopular take here and say that the Raptors win in 7 games. I think that the Raptors have good enough defense to lock down Joel Embiid and James Harden. We've seen in the past, Joel Embiid does not perform against good defenses in the playoffs. I mean, look, Atlanta Hawks did not have a good defense last year, so he performed against them. Same thing with Washington. But against elite defense, he does not perform. I mean, the Heat locked him up earlier this year. The Raptors gave him problems. And the same thing can be said for James Harden. James Harden, not only is he worse right now, but he does get locked up in the playoffs from time to time. And I would not be surprised if the Raptors were the ones to do that. They have a head coach in Nick Nurse who is crazy enough to put out any big wing and make them shut down any perimeter player on the court. That includes Maxey, Harden, Tobias Harris. It goes down the line. To me, the Raptors are going to win in 7 because of coaching and defense. That's 2 things that the Sixers are okay at, but not elite at like the Toronto Raptors are. The next series, the number 3 seeded Bucks versus the number 6 seeded Bulls. The Bucks are sweeping. The Bulls are not that team, and they are not proven in the playoffs either. It was a good run for them this year. They made the playoffs after missing them for 5 consecutive years. That's good. However, they have no reason to be here. They're not going to beat the Bucks. They're not talented enough. And the last series in the East, the number 2 Celtics versus the number 7 Nets. To me, the Celtics are winning in 7. I mean, the Nets have been very good this year. They obviously have the best player in the series named Kevin Durant. But I'm not relying on them because of how streaky their offense has been. Their defense, don't even talk to me about their defense, man. That thing has been horrible. And look, when you're boasting a number 1 overall defense with the Boston Celtics and you're comparing it to a Nets defense that's like 23rd right now, I mean, the difference is between night and day. So to me, the Nets are not consistent enough. How Kyrie has been playing is not consistent enough. And also how the supporting cast has been playing is not consistent enough to beat a high-level playoff team like the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics obviously have Jason Tatum, and they have depth, and they have defense, and they have good enough three-point shooting. You can't say all of those things about the Brooklyn Nets. That's why the Celtics are winning in 7 games. All right, now let's move on to the second round, but let's go into the Western Conference since we started there. The Phoenix Suns versus the Utah Jazz. The Suns are winning in 5. They are the better coach team. They have better depth. They have better star power. There's not much to talk about here. The Suns are going to cakewalk to a Western Conference Finals, something that they will do for basically 2 straight years now. And then the next series, to me, can be an upset. The Warriors versus the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies can win this series, but it's all based on how they perform in the first round. If they get taken to 7 by the Timberwolves, then they're not beating the Warriors. But if they beat the Timberwolves in 4 or 5 games, then I think they can beat the Warriors. To me, they've been a more consistent team this year. They've had the better coaching. To me, they had the better defense too, as a team defense. Obviously, they don't have as much star power as the Warriors, but I'm not calling Andrew Wiggins a star. He's going to crumble in the playoffs. We know who he is. He's not going to play well in the playoffs. So that's like -1 for them. And a +1 for the Grizzlies is their amazing depth, which is better than the Warriors. And also, Ja Morant is a big-time player. Now, look, there's maybe a couple of players you could put on the Warriors to stop Ja Morant, but you can't do that. I mean, Ja Morant is not going to be stopped by a 45-year-old Andre Iguodala or an Andrew Wiggins. But the Grizzlies have something to say about that because they could put Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks, all these different perimeter defenders on Curry to harass him, and also still have good perimeter defenders for the other perimeter scorers that they have, like Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson. I'm taking the hot take here and taking the Grizzlies in 7 games. All right, and now for the Western Conference Finals, the Phoenix Suns against the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are not experienced enough to beat the Phoenix Suns. And yes, you could say the same thing for the Warriors, but I just have hope in the Grizzlies that they can beat the Warriors. I don't think that they can beat the Suns just because the Suns are that much better than the Warriors. Anyway, the Suns will be making the NBA Finals in 6 games. All right, now let's go back to the East. In the second round, we have the 1-seeded Heat against the 5-seeded Raptors. The Heat are winning this series in 6 games. These are 2 very well-coached teams. But in the end of the day, the talent will win this series. The Sixers are so poorly coached that the talent can lose them that series because of how bad they are coached. It's not the same thing with the Heat. They're more talented, and they have similar coaching. All right, let's go to the other second round matchup. The number 2 seeded Celtics versus the number 3 seeded Bucks. Now this series to me is going 7, and the Bucks are winning. They have the better star. Giannis is better than Jason Tatum. Giannis can be considered the best player in the world. Jason Tatum is on the outside of top 8. So look, that's all it comes down to. Yes, the Milwaukee Bucks had a league average defense this year, and their coaching is probably not as good as Ime Udoka. However, Giannis has taken this team to a championship in a year last year where they weren't even expected to go that far. So to me, there's nothing to say about it. Giannis in 7 games. Now we go to the Eastern Conference Finals where the Bucks match up against the Heat, and the Bucks are winning in 5. Yes, I'm so scared, bro. I'm a Heat fan, but they can dominate us. It's just Giannis is not going to beat us, but they will win by committee. And look, when the lights are the brightest, Jimmy Butler has not shown up for us. As a first option in the bubble, sure he has, but he has not been consistent in the fact that he hasn't even done it this regular season on a consistent basis to be clutch in the moments where we need him the most. So just for the fact that Jimmy Butler is our first option, we're losing this series. Anyway, in the NBA Finals, you know who I'm picking. The Milwaukee Bucks. To me, obviously, they have the better first option. They won last year. And yes, although the Phoenix Suns did get better, they still don't make adjustments in the clutch. I mean, Giannis was eating Ayton to shreds last year, and they didn't try and put Mikal Bridges or something like that on him and then have Ayton come down on the baseline and protect the paint. They just let Ayton go one-on-one against him. And Ayton lost all the fucking reps. So that's why they lost the finals. And that's why Giannis won the finals. I don't think that's going to change. Monty Williams is a very good coach and a very good regular season coach at that. But I don't think he's making that adjustment. And that's why the Bucks will be your NBA champion. So yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I'll see you later. Peace out.
Hey, come on, I got a bag on me. You try to take it, leave you stinking like your last homie. She kinda cakey, little baby, put that ass on me. But I ain't that horny, do you got some cash for me? Why every time you ask him that, bitches act funny? And you keep trying to hold the strap, you won't slap for me. You too happy, I can tell you never had money. Every time you get on live, gotta flash money.